I'm Elise Hugh.
And I'm Josh Klein, and we're the hosts of Built for Change, a podcast from Accenture.
On Built for Change, we're talking to business leaders from every corner of the world that are harnessing change to reinvent the future of their business.
We're discussing ideas like the importance of ethical AI or how productivity soars when companies truly listen to what their employees value.
These are insights that leaders need to know to stay ahead.
So subscribe to Built for Change wherever you get your podcasts.
For the past week or so, we've heard a lot about the hacker attacks on the computer systems at MGM and Caesars. They're the biggest casino groups on the Strip. Videos are showing massive disruptions at MGM properties, and I gotta tell you, those are both shocking and disheartening in a city that relies so heavily on the tourist experience. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, Scott Roeben, aka Vital Vegas, helps us dig into what happened, the implications of paying ransom or not paying ransom, and why transparency is not the standard when it comes to this new brand of chaos hitting the Strip. It's Wednesday, September 20th. I'm Dayvid Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Scott Roeben, a.k.a. Vital Vegas. Welcome back to CityCast Las Vegas.
Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, it's great to talk with you, man. You always have such interesting insights on things happening around the Strip. And one of many big stories is the MGM cyber hack. So let's get right to it. How did MGM find itself in this cyber nightmare?
That is a great description because that is exactly what's happening. And we know that because it's in contrast to another cyber attack at Caesars, which was handled very differently and was kind of a non-issue. I'm sure the folks that listen to your show know this, but MGM Resorts owns a number of casinos here in Las Vegas, probably half on the Strip. But obviously, it's a national company, and this has affected their entire company. So it has turned out that this has been a ransomware situation. It was social engineering that got them into the system, and the hackers have been wreaking havoc to their system for more than a week. The Caesars situation involved ransom, I would say allegedly, but I've actually confirmed that that's what happened. They paid the hackers to destroy the data that was stolen from Caesars Entertainment. So that was resolved. And there's been almost no business disruption to Caesars Entertainment. So they're looking like geniuses. MGM Resorts has not even reached out to the hackers, even though they've cleared the path to resolve it. So they're taking the high ground. And that's where we are today, a major disruption of all their systems. Anything you can think of that could be connected to a computer has either been shut down by the hackers or has been voluntarily shut down as a precautionary measure,
Sure.
which has led to a huge disruption of their business.
Oh, I can imagine. And I want to talk about all of it, including the Caesars attack that happened before. So I just want to get straight on the timeline. So we're talking about Sunday, September 10th is when MGM finds out that hacking is afoot. And I wonder what happened like in succession next. Like, when did the public first find out about it?
They first found out about it from me, of course.
There you go. My breaking news guest.
And to be clear, I didn't know the scope,
Sure.
but I was getting reports from MGM Resorts. I have folks everywhere in Vegas and beyond, and they said machines are down. You know, they were going through kind of the visible signals that something was happening, and I did share that Sunday night. That was before any of it was reported that it seemed to be kind of, this scenario seemed very familiar because we have seen this before in Las Vegas. And then the next day it kind of broke more widely, and it was very obvious to everybody that something was happening because we're talking about the Tito vouchers in slot machines weren't working. And to this day, they're not back 100% over a week at a major casino company, not having the ability for players to gamble and take their money out of the machine. They're still getting hand pays. That's the late breaking news, is that some of those machines are coming back. So MGM Resorts is basically rebuilding its system. There was a suspicion they might pay the ransom and get this resolved, but they haven't. They're doing it the old school way, which is painful and very, very expensive, but that's what's happening today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing estimates of over $1 million a day at a minimum of what MGM is losing just here in Las Vegas as they're trying to...
$1 million would be for one casino.
Yeah.
We're talking about there's potentially $15 to $20 million a day. $15 million was what Caesars Entertainment paid to the hackers. They talked them down from a $30 million demand. So we're talking about a loss every day.
I mean, as we're recording this on Monday, September 18th. It looks like there's some normalcy, but that the hack impact is continuing for MGM. The reports were coming out slow but steady. And then, of course, everyone's got a camera. Everyone's got a video. You're seeing it from, every social media platform where the lines are getting longer. The machines are being shut down. And you mentioned Tito for listeners who aren't gambling enthusiasts like you and I. Tito stands for ticket in, ticket out. And that's the convenient measure of the way that people do gamble these days, right? They'll stick their money in, and then at the end of whatever their session is, they'll push a button, they get a ticket, they take the ticket, they cash it in, they get their cash back. All normal, all efficient, and just the opposite happening over at MGM. So I haven't, it seems like MGM is being pretty cagey, at least in the beginning, about letting people know what was happening. So what was the official line they were telling people, and why weren't they more transparent from the beginning, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's painful to watch because even now they have not done an update in several days, other than to say we're working diligently to resolve this issue. And a lot of people feel duped because when you come to a hotel and you haven't been told that you're going to be waiting in line 4 hours, you feel like maybe they could have done a little better job in communicating what was happening in a little more real time than kind of putting out a statement. 2 days in, they put out a statement saying, we are here giving you the experience that customers have come to know and love at MGM Resorts. It is the largest pile of steaming BS I think I've seen in a statement in years, because that was 2 days into what is now an 8-day shutdown of critical systems. They have to use personal email. They're using Gmail accounts at the highest level of the company.
Oh, no.
They can't use phones. They've got elevators with walkie-talkies taped to the wall saying, if you have an emergency in this elevator, use this walkie-talkie, because the phone system's out. And they 2 days in said, everything is peachy. Keep coming. And so people, as the word got out, now the casinos are empty. Because when we're talking about these Tito tickets, it means that if you're playing on a machine and if you have 5 cents coming back to you, a slot attendant has to come give you a hand pay for 5 cents.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Not efficient.
Thousands of machines
Not efficient.
on every casino floor. Yeah. And so the good news is that as these systems slowly start to come back online, like the check-in system, is that those 4 and 6 hour lines have now shrunk and gone away. So as each problem is solved, that one seems to have been solved first, because anything customer facing gets all their energy.
Yeah.
And obviously the machines are a big one too, but we're talking about potentially weeks or months of rebuilding these systems, and these loyalty club databases are the biggest asset of the casino. MGM Resorts doesn't own the property, but it owns the database. So that's their biggest asset. So they really have to protect those databases, and they have to make sure that it's not being sold on the dark web, that other things are happening to their data. At this point, they don't know. They've said they don't even know the nature and scope of the attack, which is shocking.
Yeah, and that's really what I want to follow up with, is because here we are in week 2 of the cyber attack. You mentioned, they're trying to contain stuff. I'm wondering, what are, in your mind, the biggest lingering issues the hackers are causing for MGM? and their guests, maybe not just the physical, but the philosophical or ethereal. Like, what's the impact that's lingering because of this hack, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, it raises so many interesting issues because there's always been this idea of we don't negotiate with terrorists. And if we put this in the terrorism category, it's very complicated because if you pay the hackers like Caesars did, the theory is that it will encourage them or others to do it again, right? So MGM has said, well, we're not playing that game. This is an illegal activity, whether it originates in the U.S. or somewhere else, and we're not gonna do it. Well, this fallout means that you've chosen a path where your brand could be affected because people have stopped coming. And the question is, do they trust the brand after this has been resolved, presumably? And how do you know it's resolved? Because hackers are really sophisticated. If they're in there mucking around, they could potentially leave Trojan horses. They could leave, other kind of nefarious software. They could encrypt things that the company needs. A high-level Caesars executive said that the theft of their data was terrible, but what the hackers could have done is so much worse because hackers can go in. Once they're in your system, they can encrypt your entire system so you can't get into your own system. That's the true nightmare scenario.
Right. And that's the lifeblood of these casinos. And Scott, it was widely reported that MGM also got hacked in a similar fashion where data was at risk back in 2019. Did MGM not learn anything from that, or are lessons being applied now in holding out and containment?
I think they absolutely learned a lesson, but the real lesson is that it doesn't matter what your security system is because humans are always going to be the weak link. This hack was done through social engineering. They are contacting individuals. The same scenario unfolded when casinos were ripped off by these folks impersonating executives and owners of the casinos. Multiple casinos were hit. And they're so sophisticated, they impersonate an individual. In the case of MGM, they got somebody to change a password.
Yeah, that's just
in
wild.
The case of some of these casinos, they got people to walk money out the door. So human beings are the problem, and you're never going to get human beings out of the equation. There's just no way that's ever going to happen. So you can learn as many lessons as you want. You can invest as much as you want in these systems, but they're still vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, run people through scenarios. Spend that time developing your employees to be vigilant, but also paying them for, creating that firewall, literally human firewall to these type of attacks. I wonder... We've been hearing that there is a group claiming responsibility, a hacker group. Have they made specific demands that you've heard of? And what do you know about the group claiming they're responsible for the attack?
Yeah, it's quite complicated because there's kind of like an umbrella organization. Then there are kind of like, there's groups that work with them. The groups that have been claiming responsibility are based in Russia. And one of the more shocking twists in this whole story is that the hackers put out a statement. It's like they have a PR department.
Wild.
And they didn't want misinformation out there about their group or what they were doing. So they wanted to clarify.
Don't defame us. We're the hackers and we have a mission statement. Don't misrepresent us. That's wild to me in 2023.
Correct. And they think they're heroes because they're talking about all these, do you think this company cares about the security of your data? Like they're preaching, and they're criminals. I don't know if you've talked about this at all, but there's this big change at the SEC now, and they require these companies to report these incidents, which has never been the case.
Yeah.
So there have been dozens of these ransomware cases in Las Vegas. We've seen it. These companies never want to confirm it, but now they have to.
And just to be clear, the SEC, because it's a public traded company, they want to make sure that investors have all the information that they're supposed to have. So, it's in service of capitalism. I guess that's fine. But yeah, this new requirement is definitely shedding a lot of light. Scott, have you heard specifically what the demands that these hackers have made on MGM?
They have not set an amount. 30 million seems to be the sweet spot for the demands. But in this case, the hackers have made it really clear that MGM Resorts has not communicated with them.
I'm Elise Hu.
And I'm Josh Klein, and we're the hosts of Built for Change, a podcast from Accenture.
On Built for Change, we're talking to business leaders from every corner of the world that are harnessing change to reinvent the future of their business.
We're discussing ideas like the importance of ethical AI or how productivity soars when companies truly listen to what their employees value.
These are insights that leaders need to know to stay ahead.
So subscribe to Built for Change wherever you get your podcasts.
So, Scott, we've seen the alleged hackers' comments on this. We've gotten some statements out of MGM via their PR department, also their SEC filing. What about the responses from the government officials and law enforcement? What are their roles in this, and how can they help?
Well, they're utterly useless, is the way I've heard it.
But how do you really feel?
Yeah, and that's not my opinion. That's the opinion of people who have been involved with these specific hacks. Because we expect that once the federal authorities are involved, these are the elite of cyber crime. And they're going to have a solution, right? They're going to ninja this thing, and they're going to come in and they're going to have precision, and they're going to have countermeasures. They can't do anything. They can't, once the system has been breached, they call them bad actors, right? The bad actor is in Russia. We can't enforce anything. We can't put up some magical wall that keeps them from coming into the systems if they find these areas of vulnerability through human beings. So all the biggest agencies, local, completely useless, federal, completely useless. They have advice, but the other thing that I was told is the advice from each of these entities is different because they tell you, don't negotiate with terrorists. But on the other hand, they go, well, but do you want to have your business inoperable for a week or 2 weeks or longer? So you're getting mixed messages. And the executive I spoke to said they're not even 100% wrong, because if you're 100% wrong, you could still make decisions based on that. He said the information is spotty and inconsistent and useless. And so these casino executives, this is not their realm of expertise. So they're talking to their IT departments, they're talking to consultants and experts in the industry at a very high price tag, by the way. Because once you're in the throes of this, getting the people who are at the highest level of cybersecurity they can name their price just like the hackers can. There could not be a more stark contrast between strategies than Caesars and MGM Resorts, the two biggest gaming companies in the world. And yes, it was embarrassing for Caesars. Yes, they had a data breach. Yes, they have to go through this rigmarole about alerting every customer in their database, millions of people, giving them free credit monitoring probably. And so there's that strategy, but no disruption to their business. It's millions of dollars saved. And MGM kind of just trying to do it, what some would say is the right way, but they're getting so much blowback, and it's so much more expensive than people realize.
So, you've literally said that Caesar's Palace is coming off as geniuses, and MGM, by contrast, I guess, are being foolish in your mind. So are you saying that we should give in to the terrorists? Is that your take here, Scott?
I think I have the luxury of being an armchair quarterback, and I don't think that you should encourage this bad behavior, this illegal behavior. But I also don't have a multi-billion-dollar casino company that has been brought to its knees by these criminals.
Yeah.
So philosophically, I'm against it. But if you look at the resolution of these two situations, I think you negotiate down, you pay, and then you spend all your money on the next iteration of your security system.
Yeah. I'm looking at this, and we're talking about MGM, we're talking about Caesar's Palace. Between those two companies, they have like 60% of the properties on the Strip. And I'm wondering, is there an argument to go back to the old, antitrust days or whatever, that we need more diversity in owner-operators on the Strip? I mean, how vulnerable is our city when most of those properties are in the hands of those two companies?
Yeah, you make a great point, because the other thing that's been affected by this shutdown is tax revenue. Because when people stop booking rooms, when they stop gambling in the casino, you have these other impacts. A typical tourist doesn't know who owns what. They walk into a Bellagio and they can't tell the difference between that and Caesars. They don't know who owns what. They don't care. But on the business side, monopolies tend to lower quality, lower service. They start to have more of a civil service kind of vibe to them with these bigger companies. But I don't know that we should start mucking with, although we do, because antitrust means you can't own too much. I mean,
that shut down Howard Hughes in the day when he tried to expand, I think, to like the Stardust, or like, oh, that's way too many. And now you look at today, two attacks hit 60% of the Strip. That's definitely something to think about with regard to vulnerability. I guess it all leads to the big final question, Scott. How bad is this whole affair for Las Vegas?
I think it's quite bad, because the casino industry overall is based on trust. And the reason that's true is because when you put your money in a machine, you have to trust that you're getting a fair deal. You're getting a fair chance to win. And the other big push in casinos, because it's so profitable, is to get people to sign up with their loyalty clubs, right? Well, loyalty clubs are what's under attack. Even Caesars, paying the hackers, have acknowledged that they got a ton of information. It's names, it's addresses, sometimes it's social security numbers, like
Scary.
The list goes on and on. But yeah, I think it's a black eye. And I think people are noticing, because even just in a week, people have decided, I'm not going to gamble there. Of course, I've said this before, like, this will change Vegas forever. And then a week later, people are back doing the same thing, because people have short memories. The reality is they're having fun. Everybody, it's strange, because people almost take these hacks as just a matter of course. Like, when I first started sharing this stuff, nobody was surprised. They were just annoyed. Like, oh, I have to wait to check in. That's annoying. But it wasn't a surprise that a major company, these companies have the best cybersecurity of any casino companies. So these other casinos, these individually owned casinos, they better be proactive, because the hackers have nothing better to do with their day. It took them 10 minutes to get into the system. So if you don't think they're going to be working their way around town, you got another thing coming.
That's the thing about the Strip, right? You want to hit it all. So whether a tourist or hacker, Scott Roeben, a.k.a. Vital Vegas, thanks again for joining us on CityCast Las Vegas.
Anytime. Great to catch up.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you know someone planning a Vegas trip soon, or any cybersecurity expert, share this episode with them. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Take care.
Don't cut this out. This is gold.
No, this is all good. We're just deciding where we're going next. I have one of two choices.
No, I mean the awkward silence. Leave it in.
Never.
Just totally leave it in.
Never.